My name is Saavedra. I'm the airport director here at Bangor International. Thank you for joining us this morning. We have a few remarks here that are going to be brief, as details are still limited, and we're awaiting additional support from our federal partners regarding this incident.
Welcome to Bangor International Airport. For your safety, please keep your luggage with you at all times and do not accept anything from people you don't know. All individuals must maintain control of their personal property.
So I'll share additional details of what we have and we can share at this time. At approximately 7:45 p.m. last night, there was an accident involving a single GA aircraft that was departing from Bangor International Airport. The aircraft was a Bombardier CL-600. Our emergency protocols were immediately activated and first responders were on scene in under a minute. In addition to the Maine National Guard initial response with their fire and rescue vehicles, the Bangor Fire Department and approximately 10 other municipalities responded to the scene. An emergency operations center was established to oversee response and remains active. The National Transportation Safety Board and the Federal Aviation Administration have been notified and are responding to Bangor International Airport, and we expect them to arrive later on today. The airport remains closed, and additional updates will be provided as soon as they're available, and we can share additional details to the public. We appreciate your understanding and patience regarding the incident and ask that you continue to respect the privacy of those involved in this incident. Once the FAA and the NTSB are on site, we will work together with them to provide additional information as soon as that becomes available. I have a few moments for brief questions, but again, since the situation is still fluid, I might not have a lot of answers for you.
Why can't you just say whether or not there were any fatalities? How's that going to impede any investigation that may or may not be coming?
We're waiting for guidance and support from our federal partners before we can make any additional statements to not interfere with their investigations, as they're the leaders of what the next steps look like.
Was anybody transported to the hospital from the crash scene?
I'm not ready to share additional information on that.
Why was the plane allowed to take off in the first place given the storm?
The airport remained open. There were planes landing and departing around that time, and we had crews on site responding to the ongoing storm that we had at that time.
Is there a protocol for weather like this? Is there a time when flights are not able to take off?
So we have crews on site that respond to weather storms, and we prepare for this on a regular basis. This is normal for us to deal with weather events, and we had crews on site to address the weather event that we had ongoing.
And they deemed it safe to take off?
The snow removal operations were in progress, and again, there were planes landing and departing at that around that time of the incident.
Does the fact that it was a private plane impact that at all? Like, would a commercial flight not have taken off last night?
There were commercial planes landing and departing around that time.
Was there a request to de-ice the plane at all?
There were de-icing operations occurring at that time, yes.
Where was the plane heading?
Details about the flight, I would want to hold off on the details on that flight until we have the opportunity to discuss with the NTSB.
Can you share any additional details on what happened? How long it was taking?
Not at this time. All of the information I've outlined is the details that we can share at this time. Again, like I mentioned, we're awaiting members from the National Transportation Safety Board to arrive on scene so that we can have those conversations, and they will be taking on the investigation from here.
When do you expect that to happen?
The NTSB has notified us that they expect to have a team of investigators on site later this afternoon, early evening.
They said earlier today that it could be a day or two until people are on scene. Has that changed?
I'm not aware of what they have said or not. The communications that we've had, they indicate that their team is en route to the airport.
Could you give us the tail number on the plane?
I don't have that information here with me, but we could follow up with that.
And is the plane still on the runway?
So when incidents like this happen, the scene of the incident remains in place until the NTSB arrives and releases the scene.
And there are still some flights that are scheduled to take off or land according to the boards. Are those canceled for the foreseeable future?
Yeah, the airport remains closed. We are updating our NOTAMs, which will indicate that the airport will remain closed at least for another 24 hours.
And do we know what the scene looks like? Like, are a lot of crews still there? Like,
Our first responders obviously responded to the incident. They addressed the situation that is on the field, and at this time we are securing and monitoring the scene.
And did weather impact any operations at all last night, whether the cold or the snow?
Well, as you are all aware, there was a major storm that was making its way across the vicinity and across the country. So the weather was a factor in many operations, and I think that even before the accident, there were a significant amount of cancellations and delays already on the board.
What can you tell us about the flight? I know you can't tell us where it was going, but I mean, who owned the plane? It was a private jet. Can you tell us anything about that?
At this time, I don't have additional information to share with you. Again, I would wait for additional information once the NTSB gets here, and then we're able to provide additional information.
And
Did
what
it-
were?
Did any other flights land prior to the plane taking off? Like, did any commercial flights land here? Like
Yes.
An hour or so before?
Yes, shortly before the aircraft incident, there were departures and arrivals.
So do you not know if there were no survivors, or are you just not ready to share that information?
We're not ready to share additional information.
Can you explain that a little bit more? Why exactly can't you share whether or not there were any survivors?
Right, because it's an ongoing investigation, and the NTSB is taking over from here. So,
Does the airport typically operate under conditions like last night where we have so much snow coming in?
the airport has a professional crew of snow removal operations that works at every event that we have to maintain safe operations around the clock.
And what conditions constitute closing the runway or closing the airport?
Yep. So there's different criteria that can be used to make that determination, and so it's in a case-by-case situation.
What is happening to the passengers who are stranded at this point? I know the airport typically closes after last departure.
I'm sorry, say that.
What happens to the passengers who are stranded and unable to fly out at this point?
Yep. Well, we're advising passengers that are scheduled or were scheduled to fly into or out of the airport is to contact the airline so that they can get additional information on their impacts to their travel arrangements.
I'm sorry, can you just talk at all about what the conditions were like at the time of the crash?
Yes, so I don't want to get too much into the details, but again, as you all might be aware, the storm started taking effect into the vicinity right around that time, so that's more or less what I would say. That's all the time that I have for questions. Thank you for your time, and we'll provide additional information shortly after, once the NTSB is here. Thank you.
Is the NTSB telling you not to share anything about fatalities?
You've been watching a live briefing from the Bangor International Airport on that crash at the airport last night during the storm. A lot of questions still remain coming out of that briefing from officials. Quick notes of what we don't know. They will not say if anybody was injured or if anybody was transported from that scene. They will not say if anybody died in the crash. They will not say where the plane was headed at this point. So a lot of questions that we thought would be answered at this point that we didn't. Want to revisit Ryan Breton, who is breaking down what was going on with this storm system that we've been talking about for a week now at the time of this crash in Bangor. No indication it's related.
Right. They acknowledged it had
that.
impacted operations in the sense that some flights were canceled and or delayed.
Right.
Let's take you back to last evening, and this is up on Max 2 if you want to pull it up. A map of the greater Bangor area. The airport is to the west of downtown. It's a northwest to southeast oriented runway. It's also a long runway. If you've been in the area, you see the type of military aircraft that takes off and does practice runs and whatnot from there. These are the conditions at 8 o'clock last night, which is the nearest observation to the time of this crash, which was approximately 7:45. Light snow was coming down. The snow had begun about 2 hours earlier. It was somewhere around 6 p.m. The temperature only 2 degrees. The wind out of the northeast 10 miles per hour. That's not very strong, but it is a bit of a crosswind there. The northeast wind, whereas you have either a northwest to southeast or southeast to northwest oriented takeoff, depending on which way the runway, which direction they're using the runway. Visibility 3/4 of a mile. Again, this was not the height of the storm, but it was the period of time where the conditions were going downhill, whereas a few hours earlier there really wasn't much happening in Bangor. As for the conditions right now, because the investigation is still underway, the conditions now are still challenging, Brian and Chris. The visibility not as low as it had been, but of course, as we've been discussing, the brutal cold in this storm is something that investigators will have to contend with. 6 degrees right now with a north wind of 15 miles per hour in Bangor and still some light snow coming down. So while at that point in time it was really heavy snow in southern Maine, in the Bangor area, it really was just getting underway, and at the time of the incident, it was about 3/4 mile visibility.
You also just shared a moment ago the conditions for the investigation as it plays out today. That is one of the big questions we have. It sounded like from the press conference, Jose Saavedra there from the Bangor International Airport, deferring essentially to the national authorities, the National Transportation Safety Board and the Federal Aviation Administration, whose investigators, he says, are expected to arrive in Bangor later this afternoon, possibly early this evening. Will there be snow happening, that kind of second round you guys have talked about,
Yes.
if they were to arrive sometime after noon today?
Yeah, so the storm doesn't completely wrap up, frankly, until really this evening. There's a look at the radar. You can see there's a little gap actually around Bangor, but this snow will kind of pivot through the state over the next several hours, not wrapping up completely until tonight. So there will still be snow around, yes, and it does remain cold through the duration of the day.
And just in terms of logistics too, presumably investigators are coming from the DC area or other parts of the country that frankly were more crippled by this storm system with ice and major issues there. So even just the logistics of getting investigators here, we're starting to see why that's going to take some time. If we can pull up the statement from the National Transportation Safety Board, they also released the similar limited information about this, but there's an interesting note in this that contradicts a little bit of what we just heard from the director at the airport. So I want to read one line from, again, this is from the National Transportation Safety Board that I'm reading from. It says, the NTSB has no role in the release of the identities of accident victims and or the extent and number of injuries, nor does it release the identities of those injured or killed. That is handled by local authorities. However, as we just saw in that live briefing, local authorities are saying we are waiting for directions from the feds. So a little contradiction there, certainly a point of frustration from those of us trying to get information about who was on the plane, because we know there were 8 people on that plane.
There was also a reporter who asked if anybody had been transported to the hospital, some type of indication of the severity of the conditions of people. They're not, the officials there, at least the Bangor airport officials, not sharing that information. They did not explain, when a question was asked, why was this single engine plane allowed to, sorry, I shouldn't say single engine, a small plane allowed to take off while other commercial flights were arriving and departing, as the airport official mentioned. It sounds like they're limited on their ability to answer a lot of the questions that we have right now.
Very limited, and you're looking at an image right here from the scene of the remains of that plane. We do know, based on that image, that it was upside down after taking off. You could see the wheels in the air, and officials did confirm there was a fire after the plane crashed there. So unfortunately, still a lot of questions about what happened at the Bangor International Airport last night. For the vast majority of people, a reminder that the airport will be closed. They are saying now until Wednesday. If you have travel plans there, keep that in mind. We have a reporter there on the scene in Bangor. We'll of course keep tracking this for you. We'll have any new information we can get starting on News Center Maine at noon. We'll see you there.